Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm in my patio right now about to harvest some summer vegetables. I get a lot of questions about the vegetables I grow in my tiny little patio and how I grow them. Since I'm about to harvest some vegetables, this might be the perfect chance for me to show you everything that I grow here. So come on, let's go harvest some vegetables. Okay, right here, this is our very old screen door that I need to replace sometime soon, but this is where I come out the house. And right here is a dividing wall between my house and my next door neighbor's townhouse. And over here is my garage door. And right here is the wall to my other neighbor's house. So you can see this is a very, very small space. Okay, now I'm going to show you individually what I have growing, and we'll be harvesting some fruits and vegetables along the way. Let's hope I can find some goodies. Alright, let's start from all the way inside. Over here, Over here, this is an Alaska azalea. I had this for 2 years now, and it's done blooming for the season. It usually blooms most prolifically for me in January and February, but this year it's still blooming. You can see there are new buds coming out, which I'm happy about. And the good tip for flowers is once they start dying, it's better to just pick them off. That way the plant will put energy back into the plant to producing more flowers and fruits than just holding on to these old dying flowers. Right next to that, I have a small blueberry that's been taken over by a volunteer strawberry. So you can see the blueberry is actually here. This is a blueberry. It's really, really small. I grew it from bare root. So this is its third year with me, and it hasn't grown very big because I haven't really been paying that close attention to it. And here, over here, this is the volunteer tomato, and you can see it is all over the ground, which I actually need to fix right now. This is a volunteer tomato, so I didn't really care about it very much. I just let it grow. I wasn't even sure what type of tomato it's supposed to be, but now I can see that it's actually a sun gold, because you see the sun gold tomatoes. So what I need to do now is to actually pick this up. Tomatoes are very sensitive plants, and they don't like to get their leaves wet. They're very prone to disease. So the fact that I have these tomatoes on the ground and they're getting wet every single morning when I water them, it's an invitation for infection and disease to take over this plant. And when that happens, that can spread very easily to the rest of my tomato plants. So right now I'm gonna take this and lift this up. Okay, you can see now this is off the ground. It's not pretty, and this is not how you are supposed to strain up a tomato, but I don't have any more room. And I will most likely pull this tomato plant out prematurely before it's done producing. But for now, it's doing okay here, and I will just keep it here until I am ready to pull it out. Over here, I have a ton more tomatoes. In all, I think I have 13 tomato plants in this tiny little patio. It's way too much, which is why it's overcrowding everything. So next year, I have to be much more careful about my planning and not be as greedy. But right here, I have a This is a brass atomic grape. This is my first year growing this plant and I'm so excited because these tomatoes look beautiful. They're not fully ripe yet, but you can see the pattern on them is absolutely gorgeous. They are really big grape size and these will change colors when they become more ripe. So this in here is another brass atomic tomato. Here are some baby ones coming out. There are some really big ones in here. You can see there's a bunch here. This will give you a pretty good idea of the size. See, this is a pretty big grape tomato. I cannot wait to try these when these are ripe. Moving in, there's a ton more. See here, tons of them down there. And then over here, I have another sun gold, and you can see all the sun golds are turning orange now, so I have a lot to harvest. And there's a ton down there as well. More brass atomic here. Hiding among all of this, there is a rosemary in here, and this one is not doing so well because again, it's being blocked by the sun because the tomatoes are overgrowing it. Also in here is a pepper. You can see the pepper plant up here. This pepper plant right here actually comes out of this planter right here. You can see that it is being just overtaken by the tomatoes. And crowding here, there's also some Swiss chard. You can see here, I have Swiss chard. Here are the peppers. Here are the peppers. I think these are cayennes, so they still have to turn red for me. There's some more here. But as you can see, really hard to find the peppers among the tomatoes. And you can also see because I don't have any room to put in tomato cages, I have had to use just these kind of strings, which is not the best, but it works for now since I don't have any room for anything else. In there, there's more tomatoes. And then over here, this over here is a new variety of nasturtiums I'm growing this year. I love nasturtiums because they are edible and they're beautiful. I don't really love the taste of them, but I love the way they look. So I like to put these on my salads or on cakes. Nasturtiums are also used as a pest deterrent, and that's why I have them as well. They will usually attract more of the aphids off of your plant onto them. I had these last year, and when I pulled them up, there was a ton of aphids on them, but the aphids were not on my plants, so that made me really happy. Normally, nasturtiums can get really big, and it can very easily overpower my little patio. So this year, I grew these hummingbird variety. They are a yellow flower with some orange and red in the middle, and I think they're beautiful, and they stay very compact so that they don't overtake my yard. And then here are my beans. You can see I have not picked these for a while, and these have gotten too large. This size right here is already way too tough. I want to pick these maybe at half the size. So I'm going to be harvesting some beans for dinner later. I also have these French beans here as well, which I need to harvest. So I guess we'll have beans for dinner for sure tonight because I have a ton. Over here, this is a cannabis plant. I forgot the name. It's God something. I didn't mark it, but my husband knows. These babies were in the ground really late. They should have been planted early spring, the seeds. I planted the seeds early summer, and these just went in the ground about 2 weeks ago. But they have already grown pretty big. Over here, I have another tomato. This is Tiny Tim tomato. This is a determinant. This is a determinant tomato. So, which means they will all fruit and ripen at once, and once that's done, then they're done for the season. Versus all my other tomatoes are indeterminate, which means they will continue to produce fruit for the rest of the summer. I think this plant maybe has another 2-3 weeks left. Once that's done, I will be pulling this out And I'm going to be seeding another batch of Tiny Tims very soon, so that when this plant comes out, I can put in a new plant and we have enough time left in the season for another batch of Tiny Tim tomatoes. But you can see there are just a ton of tomatoes hanging off this plant waiting to ripen. I'm very excited. I'll be picking a few today. Up on top here, I have, this is our barbecue. Up on top of here, I have some herbs. This is my chocolate mint. I love this plant because it literally smells like mint chocolate. Over here, I have thyme. Thyme is my favorite herb of all time. Up here, I have another cannabis plant. This is Blue Dream. This is my favorite strain of all cannabis plants, and I'm so excited for this baby to get big. You can see he's the only one that has a name tag, so he gets special treatment. Over here is the shishito pepper. This guy went in late as well. I need to give it some fertilizer. It's not growing very fast right now. Down here, I have another tomato. This is another determinant tomato. I forgot the variety name, but you can see it's gotten so heavy that it's fallen over. That's why it's sitting against the wall. Because it's literally falling over with these large tomatoes, and there's a couple I had to harvest in there. They're turning red, so I'll be harvesting those today. Here is a curry leaf plant. I got this bare root in the wintertime. I need to fill it with some more soil and maybe put in a bigger pot, but starting to grow a little bigger. I want a curry leaf plant because I like to use the leaves to make dishes with salted duck egg. Right next to that, I have another pepper plant. This is, I want to say this is Jimmy Nardello, so it's supposed to be a sweet pepper. I'm not too sure because I don't know where the tag went. So I guess we'll find out. I planted mostly all hot peppers in my patio. The only exception to that is Jimmy Nardello's. It's the only sweet pepper I planted this year. So we'll find out really quickly if this is spicy or sweet. Next to that, I have some spinach. This is New Zealand spinach. It's the only type of spinach that grows really well in the hot summer sun. It doesn't taste like a traditional spinach, but close enough. And I like to use this just in some soups or in stir fries. Right next to that, I have another pepper plant. This one is not growing very well. You can see it's not getting a lot of sun, which is why it's so long, right? It's reaching tall, trying to look for the sun. So this is not an ideal spot for peppers, but unfortunately I ran out of room, so that's where they live now. Oops. Across from that, I have two blueberry plants. This is a pink lemonade blueberry. This is my second year with this plant, and the first season it's given me a good amount of fruit. You can see these blueberries are pink and yellow. To me, the flavor does have a hint of pink lemonade. It tastes fruity, a little bit blueberry, and a little bit tart. So that's why it kind of does remind me of pink lemonade. Right next to it is a regular blueberry. This one is completely done for the season. The kids have picked everything. There are just a few scragglers left. Behind that is my Meyer lemon. It's finished flowering for the season. Now it's starting to produce fruit. It had a ton of flowers earlier in the season, but Meyer lemons, a lot of their flowers will fall off, so don't be alarmed if you see a lot of petals falling off. It's completely normal. Very few flowers will actually turn into lemons, but because they put out so many flowers, you'll end up with plenty of lemons. Behind that, I have a dwarf honeycrisp apple tree. I bought this as a bare root branch last year, and this year is the first year it's supposed to give me fruit, and it's been flowering, so I'm very hopeful that we'll get some fruit this year. And in here is a mess because we had another volunteer tomato come out here. It's another, I think this one is a yellow boy, because that's what I planted next to this planter last season. So I think one of the tomatoes must have fallen in and it's, produced a plant, and I just have not cut it down because, I'm always happy to have another tomato plant. And in here is also a Swiss chard, which is very neglected. And I always get this weird white film on my Swiss chard. Can someone tell me what it is? Is this powdery mildew or is it something else? If it's powdery mildew, it's not spreading to anything else. If anybody have an idea, I would love to know. And then buried amount there, I have some boxwood basil. In there, there's a tiny little basil leaves, which I really love. Okay, now on the other side, I have more sun goats. There is a sun goat back there with lots of tomatoes turning orange. I have another sun goat right here. So there's basically two sun goats back there. There is a squash here that currently does not have any squash on it. You can see I'm growing this vertically because squashes can get really big and I don't have the room for them. So I'm training it to go upwards. That way I can have squashes and still make enough room for something else. Right next to that, I have here, this is another tiny tomato. You can see this one's also all over the ground, which is not ideal, but it's so heavy and I don't have anything else to hold it up. You can see there's just a ton of tomatoes ripening on this one as well. And a ton of them falling off because I'm neglecting this plant. Right next to that is a ground cherry. I don't know if you can see, it's this plant right here. This guy right here is actually quite big, but this is one branch of it. And they produce these tiny little lantern looking fruits. It's related to tomatoes and tomatillos. They will fall to the ground like this, which is why they're called ground cherries. And once they fall to the ground, this is when you can harvest them, and you want to wait until the husks dry out. Once the husks dry out, kind of like this, you can open them and they are a yellow fruit. They taste slightly sweet with a pineapple flavor, but also slightly savory. It's a very interesting flavor. A lot of people like to use this in jams. I didn't plant enough to make jams with. I just wanted to try this to see if I like it. And I would say it's okay. I will probably still plant at least one of these in the future because it's fun to grow. But I don't see myself eating these a lot, and my kids aren't a huge fan of this either. But you can see these are heavy producers. They're just falling off everywhere. They're falling off all over these zucchini leaves. So this is where the other zucchini is coming out of. This one was also supposed to be growing upwards, but it's got so humongous and huge that it just fell over. And that's fine because I don't have a lot of dirt in here, so it's not really holding it up very well. But I do have some zucchinis on this plant that I haven't yet harvested. But I don't think they're quite ready. Let me see. Ow. Yeah, so I do have some zucchinis in here. You see this one is starting to grow. This guy will get pretty big in a couple days. This guy hasn't opened up yet, so I'm excited for more zucchinis. I've harvested quite a few from this plant already. So inside, along the zucchinis, I have some Thai basil, and this is another thyme. This is a lemon thyme I have here, and Thai basil, which is not growing well because again, this zucchini is covering from the sun. I have over here a red amaranth that's not growing well because the zucchini is overshadowing it. Back here, I have two Jimmy Nardello peppers. You can see some peppers about here. I need to harvest some, but this over here used to have a big pea plant next to it. So that plant covered over all my peppers. And you can see I had to pull my peppers up with some strings because they were falling all over the place. So again, not great for my peppers this year. On the opposite side, I have more beans. And this guy right here, this is a cucumber plant. Actually, this is one cucumber melon and one pickle cucumber. I haven't gotten any cucumbers from these yet. Cucumbers usually don't grow too well for me because I don't have a lot of pollinators. So for my zucchinis, I will hand pollinate them, but because the cucumber melon flower is so small, it's impossible for me to hand pollinate. So I'm hoping I'll get some cucumbers towards the end of the season. I do see some starting to fruit and get a little bigger, so hopefully they don't fall off because most of them end up falling off for me. Out here, I have, this is a blue cream, I think they're called blue cream blueberry cream or blue cream berry tomatoes. They have this really lovely pattern on them. I don't have any ripe ones right now, but you can kind of see they have a star pattern on them. So when they get bigger, they will have a star pattern where these little cap is, and then the rest will be different color. So I'm really excited to see those. I bought the seeds for this because I thought it was a very interesting looking tomato. There are 2 plants in here in this little planter, and they are growing really well right now. As you can see, they are just covered with flowers, and they already have a ton that are starting to fruit. Over here I have some zinnias. I had a lot more flowers earlier this spring, but I ended up taking them out because I planted too much, so they were also getting crowded. Over here I have some peppers that are being shaded once more. I think these are, and so you can barely tell what I wrote anymore, but I think these are Korean wrinkled green peppers that my best friend wanted to plant for her. So once I harvest some of these, I'll be bringing these over to her. Right next to that is another zucchini plant. I have harvested a ton of zucchinis from this plant as well. Right now she's taking a break. She doesn't have any zucchinis, but she does have new leaves coming out, so I'm excited for more zucchinis soon. Behind that is another small pepper that's being hidden and being blocked from the light, and I think that's another pepper back there. I don't know what that is anymore because obviously nothing grew. Over here is another giant tomato. This is a pineapple tomato, and I don't have any full-grown pineapple tomato fruit yet. I will show you one once I have them, but these are giant slicer tomatoes, and they're yellow with a hint of red, and they're supposed to taste a little bit like pineapples. I'm very excited for that. Behind this one, that one right there is another sun gold. You can see more sun golds, and they're all the way up there. Because these got so big, I had to tie them with strings, which does not look great, but they'll work. Over here I have a ton of just milk jugs with water filled in them, and that is for me to use when I apply fertilizers, because when you apply fertilizers, a lot of them don't want you to use water with chlorine in it. That can potentially kill off the microbes in the fertilizer. So I leave this water out for at least 24 hours. These have been out for a week to let them air out so that the chemicals will evaporate, and then the water will be good to use with my fertilizer. Over here is just all my fertilizers and my extra cloth planters. It's a mess. I thought about cleaning up for this video, but then I want it to be real, so this is what it looks like on a daily basis. Up there is a mourning dove. Let me see if I can get up there. Say hi to my mourning dove mama. She's been here all summer. She comes back every single spring. I think it's the same bird, I'm not sure. But they come back every single spring to lay eggs, and she's on her 3rd set of babies this year. So I'm really excited to see her up here. Hi mama. Alright, so that's everything I'm growing in my tiny little patio. I'm going to be doing some harvesting right now, so I will put the camera aside and start harvesting.